Ever heard of a company that just misplaces billions of dollars? Not in a dusty old pirate movie, but right in the heart of modern Europe. This is the story of Wirecard, a German tech darling that promised to revolutionize how we pay for things. For years, they were the golden child of the fintech world, a soaring success story that seemed too good to be true. And well, it was. Imagine a company worth over 24 billion euros, listed on Germany's prestigious DAX index alongside giants like Volkswagen and Siemens. They were processing payments for huge brands, expanding across the globe, and their CEO, Markus Braun, was hailed as a visionary. Investors were pouring money in, analysts were singing their praises, and everything seemed perfect. But behind the shiny corporate facade, a massive secret was unraveling. A secret that would eventually lead to one of the biggest financial scandals in recent history. So, what exactly did Wirecard do? On the surface, they were a payment processor. When you bought something online, they helped move your money from your bank to the seller. Simple, right? But Wirecard's business was a lot more complex than that. A huge chunk of their supposed profits came from something called third-party acquiring, or TP. They claimed to work with partners in countries where they didn't have their own licenses to operate. These partners would process payments on Wirecard's behalf, and the money would eventually flow back to the company. The problem? These partners, and the massive amounts of money they were supposedly handling, were a complete fantasy. For years, journalists, particularly Don McCrum, at the Financial Times, were raising red flags. They published reports detailing strange accounting practices, inflated profits, and a web of mysterious shell companies. They pointed to a massive operation in Asia, centered around a man named Jan Marsalek, Wirecard's chief operating officer. That just didn't add up. But every time an accusation surfaced, Wirecard fought back fiercely. They called the reports market manipulation, and even launched investigations into the journalists themselves. Germany's own financial regulator, BaFin, seemed to side with Wirecard, even launching a criminal investigation against the Financial Times reporters. It was a classic case of shooting the messenger. The company was a national champion, and nobody wanted to believe that the emperor had no clothes. They were so convincing that they managed to fool some of the world's most respected auditors and investors for years. The house of cards began to truly wobble in early 2020. The company had repeatedly delayed publishing its annual report for 2019. The excuse was always the same. Their auditors, Ernst & Young, needed more time to verify the accounts. The suspense was building. Investors were getting nervous. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived in June 2020. Wirecard dropped a bombshell announcement. Ernst & Young could not find proof that 1.9 billion euros, that's billion with a B even, existed. The money, which was supposed to be sitting in trust accounts in the Philippines, had simply vanished. The CEO, Markus Braun, initially tried to spin it. He went on video and suggested that Wirecard itself might be the victim of a massive fraud. But that story didn't last long. A few days later, he resigned and was arrested. Jan Marsalek, the chief operating officer, and the man at the center of the mysterious Asian operations, was fired, and then he disappeared. Like a character out of a spy thriller, he vanished into thin air, reportedly fleeing to Eastern Europe, and he remains a fugitive to this day. The company, stripped of its fictional cash, was forced to admit that the 1.9 billion euros probably never existed in the first place. The entire business was built on a lie. Within days, Wirecard, once a 24 billion euro titan, filed for insolvency. Its share price collapsed by over 99%, wiping out fortunes and pension funds overnight. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. The scandal sent shockwaves through Germany's financial and political establishment. How could this happen? How could auditors from a Big Four firm sign off on fake accounts for years? How could regulators fail so spectacularly to see what was right in front of them? The fallout was immense. The head of Germany's financial regulator was forced to step down. The head of Germany's accounting watchdog also resigned. Lawmakers launched a parliamentary inquiry to get to the bottom of the regulatory failures. It became clear that this wasn't just a corporate crime. It was a systemic failure. Regulators were accused of being too cozy with the companies they were supposed to be watching, and of ignoring clear warning signs for far too long. They were more interested in protecting a national champion than in uncovering the truth. So what was the point of this elaborate deception? It was all about perception. By inventing massive profits, Wirecard could inflate its stock price. A higher stock price meant they could borrow more money, make acquisitions, and keep the illusion of success going. It was a Ponzi scheme dressed up in corporate jargon. The company would use its inflated stock value as collateral to borrow real money from real banks, which it then used to fund its operations and maintain the charade. Jan Marsalek, the fugitive chief operating officer, was allegedly the mastermind, creating a shadow world of fake clients and phantom transactions to fool the auditors. The story is filled with incredible details. We're talking about forged bank statements, executives allegedly pressuring staff to cook the books, and a chief operating officer with reported ties to intelligence agencies who managed to slip away just as the walls were closing in. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of hype, the failure of oversight, and the incredible lengths people will go to in the pursuit of wealth and power. It shows how easily the systems designed to protect us can be manipulated. The trial of Marcus Braun and 2 other former executives is ongoing in Germany. They face charges of fraud, market manipulation, and embezzlement. But the bigger questions remain. How do we prevent another one? The scandal has led to calls for tougher regulations, more independent auditors, and better protection for whistleblowers and journalists who risk their careers to expose wrongdoing. The Wirecard saga is more than just a story about missing money. It's a story about trust. Trust in companies, trust in auditors, and trust in the regulators meant to keep them honest. When that trust is broken on such a spectacular scale, it damages the entire system. It reminds us all to be skeptical, to ask questions, and to remember that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. The hunt for Jan Marsalek continues, and the full story of this incredible fraud is still being pieced together, one shocking revelation at a time. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. See you next time.